Hi, my name is Dory Doyle, and I am the author of Live, Share, Repeat. And this book is an amazing guide to help you launch your own business that is person-centered while also still selling a product or a service. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I first started writing books pretty much by accident. It's actually funny. When I was in first grade, my teacher had a conference with my parents because she was really worried about me. I wasn't reading, I didn't have a lot of great writing skills, and she was concerned. Well, I would love to point out 30 years later how I'm doing now, having written 5 books with even more on the way. I have a lot of ideas going in there. But this is a book that I am so excited about because it is something that took my entrepreneur spirit and my drive to help people and really focus my business, which is a product and service centered business, and really help people and focus on the people that it's helping. And so that's what this book helps you do. So I initially wrote my first book in 2018, and it was a book for a very niche market, but it had a lot of the same concepts that you will find in Live, Share, Repeat. And the people that were in this industry used it, loved it. We sold 35,000 copies in those first 3 years, again, in a very niche market. And I had people outside of our market say, the concepts that you write about, Dory, are amazing, but can you please take the brand out of it? Can you make it available for everyone so everyone can learn these lessons? And it took a little bit of figuring out and moving things around and just kind of getting my mind around it. But I am an entrepreneur. And even before I was in my industry, I was an entrepreneur in so many other avenues. And so I could take that background. I could take being on the corner of our neighborhood selling acorns or going door to door trying to see who wanted to purchase my stuff, my old stuffed animals. I took the years that I was in the theater. I took my experience selling lampshades. For 2.5 years, I sold lampshades, and it's one of my favorite jobs to date because I learned so much about people from that. So I took all of these different life experiences and even more, which I do talk about in the book, and I took them and I put them in here. And this is a book that's about personal development, that's about learning how we can tell our stories, and then doing the things that matter. Because we only have a certain number of hours in a day, and we all have that same number of hours. But what do we do with those hours? How do we make it count? That's what's in here. So I'm going to give you a quick little rundown of what's actually in this book, because I know sometimes we're like, is it really all that you say that it is? I promise it is. So I tell all of this through stories. So if you're one that's like, I really don't like books, I really don't like reading, business books. Well, this is a story book, and you're going to get the information and the activities through stories, through meaningful stories. So in here, you're also going to notice that there's lots of places where you get to write. And I've made sure that it's good paper so you can easily write in it. Your stuff's not going to get smudged. Don't worry. I looked at all those details. But we're going to start by looking at what our past is. What were our past roles, and what skills have we learned from those? What goals do we have? Because we all have them. Are they little goals? Are they one big audacious goal? And then how do we actually set goals? So all of that's in here. What can we actually do to get to our goals? Because we have to, at some point, come up with what are the steps to get me there. And so I actually lead you through an activity to help you start to figure out what those steps could be. I say could because it can always change. We celebrate the wins together because, let's face it, we are not going to have every day go the way that we want it to go, but we are going to have wins along the way leading towards our big goal. So how can we celebrate along the way? What are our priorities? So this is something that you should know about me. I'm a mom of twins, and I also homeschool. And so our priorities are different now than they were a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. They're different. But we all have priorities that pull us in different directions. So if we can actually get our minds figured out, what are our priorities? Where do they lie? That actually is going to help us in our business, in our professional life, all of that. Where does our niche fit in there? How can we be products of the product, and how can we really get to figure out what is our why? Why are we doing this? Why are we in this particular industry? And so there's a lot of development of the why. I talk about being coachable because that's so important. I'm one that doesn't like change, yet I have learned how to be coachable, because in any sort of professional life, we are going to have to change and alter the way we do things, because it's always going to be changing and altering. Even if you do something and it's a win, we still eventually are going to have to change. So how can we be coachable? How can we reflect? And so there's a lot in there. There's a lot on the power of words and how words matter. Some people call it law of attraction, conscious language. All of those play into it, and I talk a lot about that as well. I even give you some ideas of words that we can get rid of from our vocabulary that are going to help us going further. And then I've given you a couple of things that I'm not going to include because they're really good and I want to save it for when you get your book. But some other things, the second set, that's all the live section. Living our product, living our service. And then we get into sharing, and that's where we get into our sharing from the heart and how we tell our stories. How can we be a storyteller so that our point comes across? We're not necessarily pushing a product. We're not just giving tons of facts about a service. We're actually using testimonies in an effective way. So along with that, I will teach you about forming, how we are more interested in our customers and clients than we are interesting. So I teach you how to form, which is honestly what has been such a big thing in my business. I was at a retreat recently, and we went around and we said, well, what are you most excited about? Or who are you most excited to spend time with on this retreat? And someone said, I'm most excited to spend time with Dory because she really makes me feel heard and listened to. I mean, I, of course, started crying because that was really touching. And I've worked really hard for that skill, and I teach you how to do it in Live, Share, Repeat. And then we get into types of markets and marketing techniques that you can use and empower yourself and empower your customers, how we close the sale and how we build community at the same time. Because let's face it, no one wants to be a sleazy saleswoman. We want to make everyone feel comfortable with their purchase and comfortable with the environment that we've created. And then we get into the repeat. And these are what I call the IPAs. IPA can stand for one of two things: income producing activity or impact producing activity. And so these are the ways that we create action, we create change, we create growth. And so this teaches you IPA tasks. It teaches you how you can expand your circle of influence. And so we actually have an activity in here where you get to figure out who your circle of influences are and how you can grow that. I teach you about perspective lists and how we can organize that. You get lists of those IPAs. You get planners, how the understanding of following through is important over following up, questions that you can ask, and then what we can do every single day. And I give you what I do every day, and you can take that, you can change it, or you can do exactly what I do in your own industry and make it work. I talk about consistency, why we should take a break and take a breath, and how we can use our expectations. appropriately. So anyways, that is all that you get in Live, Share, Repeat. It's available at livesharerepeat.com. We have links to all of the different places where you can purchase it. And that, if you ever go to livesharerepeat.com, that's the holding ground where any place that you can purchase this now or in the future, it's going to be listed there. So that's the most up-to-date thing. As trainings come available, it will be on that page as well. So thanks so much for looking into Live, Share, Repeat. I think it is going to be amazing for your business. We had so many people run training events, retreats. They did book studies with the first version of this. Remember, it was a niche book at first. So there have been so many uses for this book. I cannot wait to see where this goes because it is an easy read. It's something that you could sit down and read in about an hour or two, or you can really dive in and stretch it out to make your business and your professional life the best that it is. Do you have to have a business in order to benefit from this book? Absolutely not. My husband, who is an IT consultant, he said that, Dory, the concepts of this book are great for every single person, whether you own your own business or not. And I see what he's doing on a day-to-day basis, and I see how we have developed our professional lives to center around this in very different fields. So I'm excited to see where this goes for you, how this can benefit you, and what you get to do going forward. So thanks, keep in touch, and live, share, repeat.